Diminished chords are one of the first chords we ever learned, but they're kinda weird and dissonant. They don't sound all that nice on their own, and they don't even come up on our lead sheets all that much. But diminished chords are actually crazy useful. They unlock all these movements which are hidden within all of our chords. So today we're going to talk about the role of diminished chords, how to use them even when they're not written in our lead sheet, so we can create movements that sound like this. Let's start by connecting two chords which are just a whole step apart. So here in the key of B flat major, we've got three chords which are kind of the most important, right? The 1 chord, B flat major, the 4 chord, E flat major, and then F7, the 5 chord. This E flat, the 4, and F, the 5 are a whole step apart, and right in between them is an E chord. So we can squeeze an E diminished chord right here between them. E flat, E diminished, F7. This chord is called a sharp 4 diminished chord. In fact, we can see this move in action right here in the rhythm changes. So if we stay in the key of B flat, the first few moves just anchor us here in B flat. 1, 6, 2, 5. Again, 1, 6, 2, 5. And then we go 1, walk up to the 4 chord, and then here it is, E diminished. And listen to that chord. It's so tense, so dissonant, it just begs to be resolved. And where are we gonna resolve it? Right here, back to F, just like we did a second ago. Now in the case of rhythm changes, it's actually a B flat major chord with an F in the bass, but it works the same way, connecting that whole step. This tension, this is the essence of the diminished chord. They are by design unresolved and dissonant. This is why silent films would always use these when they tied a damsel to the railroad tracks. But when we play something dissonant and unstable, we have to take on the responsibility to resolve that. That instability is actually a huge opportunity for us. If you're in the community, you know that I'm on a side quest to become the greatest uncle of all time. And I have this young nephew, and not long ago he was just learning how to stand up for the first time. And me, being the cool uncle, I bought him this really cool truck, right? To try and tempt him to walk. And we would hold it in front of him. Every time he took a step, he would fall over. And that was when I realized, like, walking is just kind of controlled falling. We have to go from being sure-footed to picking one of our feet up, becoming unstable, falling over, trusting that we can catch ourselves and then like keep moving, right? Let's try walking together, but musically. I'm gonna take a D minor chord, D minor 6, and I'm gonna pair this with an E diminished. I still kept the D on the bottom, just to kind of help anchor us to D minor. D minor is the stable chord. E diminished is unstable, right? Let's take a different inversion. Let's move the D minor up here and use this E diminished. And now you can put these together. On a lead sheet, this would just say D minor 6. This E diminished chord isn't going to be written there at all. But now you know you have kind of two versions of D minor. You could play the resolved version or the version that has movement. Let's look a little bit deeper at the diminished chord. A diminished chord is just a stack of 4 notes, and all of these notes are equally spaced apart. They're all minor thirds apart. C, E flat, G flat, and A. And we can invert this chord by taking a note off the bottom and putting it on top. And now we get E flat, G flat, A, and C. So this is E flat diminished. Do it again, take the E flat off the bottom, put it on top, etc. Now we have G flat diminished and A diminished. So this one shape actually gives us 4 different diminished chords. So we actually only need 3 shapes to cover all of our possible 12 chords. We have one on C, we have another one on D flat, and another one on D. Once you get past that, back on E flat, this is the same as the C that we just did a minute ago. This symmetry of the diminished chord is one of the most powerful aspects of it, and then we can exploit this for movement. This movement between D minor and E diminished demonstrates one of the most important movements that we can build on top of. Let's do this same idea again, but this time in a major key. Let's do it in E flat major. Again, I'm gonna play E flat 6, and this E flat 6 is going to pair with F diminished. So if we look at this from the perspective of E flat major, the whole scale, all of the notes are accounted for here, right? The E flat major 6 notes account for 4 of the notes, and then the F diminished covers the rest of the notes. There's an extra one here, but that's a story for another day. So if we have a melody that fits perfectly inside the E flat major scale, we can harmonize that melody using these two chords. So we can take a song like There Will Never Be Another You. That melody entirely fits perfectly in the key of E flat major. And so we can use the notes from E flat and F diminished to harmonize. All right. Walking like this between the chord and the diminished, especially when you play them in block chords or drop two voicings, was so common. I mean, it was kind of pioneered by George Shearing, but then by Barry Harris, Oscar Peterson, Red Garland. So many people played this locked hands block chord style. Another great way to use a diminished chord for movement is to kind of delay the satisfaction of resolving back to the one chord. So if we were playing this song, There Will Never Be Another You, when we get to the end, it kind of brings us back home to E flat major 6. Right here. So if you change this E flat major chord at the end to E flat diminished with the same root, you can hear how much movement it has to bring you back here. Here it is. Nice. Every Friday afternoon, I host a jazz workshop on Zoom. This week, we're starting a brand new series learning how to play My Romance. I would love to have you join us. It's completely free. I just need to know that you're coming, so you need to RSVP here at this link to let me know. The diminished 7th chord is not the only chord we play that has tension in it, of course. The other one that comes to mind is the dominant chord. And actually, these two are kind of cousins with each other. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a B flat dominant chord. Here's a B flat 7, B flat, D, F, and A flat. And let's take a B diminished chord, B, D, F, A flat. 3 of these notes, D, F, and A flat, are the same between both chords. The dominant chord has a similar function to the diminished, at least in the sense that we're creating an unstable, unresolved sound. This B flat 7 chord has a tritone interval in it, D to A flat. The tritone interval is so unstable, it kind of flavors the sound of the whole chord. But this B diminished chord has the same tritone in it, D to A flat. But to ramp this up even more, the B diminished chord also has B to F, which is also a tritone. It has 2 tritones in it. These are why these 2 chords sound so similar. The tritone interval imparts such a strong flavor to both of them. It's kind of like how everything at Taco Bell tastes the same because it's all just made of the same 4 ingredients. But this is where the symmetry of the diminished chord comes in clutch, because not only are 3 of these notes the same, but this 4th one is only a half step different. Now I'm going to shortcut a whole bunch of music theory, nerdy stuff around diminished chords that we could go a lot deeper on, and we have in other videos. But just to kind of keep this quick and practical, just take your B diminished chord and lower any note. Let's lower the B to B flat. And as we just said, that gives us B flat 7. Let's go back. But now lower the D to D flat. And now we get D flat 7. Let's go back. Lower the F to E, and we get E7. Lower the A flat to G, and we get G7. This one diminished chord can lead you to 4 different dominant chords. These are the 4 different types of dominant resolutions we have to the home key of E flat. Check it out. We could have B flat 7. To go home to E flat is just down a 5th. 5, 1. Classic, right? The D flat 7 is what we call the back door. The E7 is what we call the tritone sub. Now this G7, we don't talk about quite as much, but I call that the back doors tritone. So here's a diminished chord movement that I play all the time when I'm gigging. You can steal this from me directly. I don't care. I won't tell anybody. Let's take a C diminished chord. We're going to play it up here a little higher on the piano. C, E flat, G flat, A. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the A and move it up a whole step to B. So we're going to play this whole chord together and then move just the top note down to the A. That move by itself is so nice. Now what we're going to do is move the entire C diminished chord down in inversion. So from here, we're going to take the A down an octave and we end up here. And we're going to repeat this move. Take the top note, move it up a whole step, and bring it down. Then do it again. Take this chord, invert it down, move the top note up a whole step, and bring it down, and continue. And you can chain these together. Isn't that nice? Oh, it's so smooth. So as we just said, this C diminished chord could take us to any 4 dominant chords. Let's take the E flat and go down a half step, and that gives us D7. So we could play this movement over a D7 chord, and D7 is going to resolve us to G major. You definitely want to steal that one for your next gig. If we zoom in on this movement, let's just remove all the chords out of it and just look at the top note. This gives us a scale. This scale is called the diminished scale. It's an 8-note octatonic scale that fits our diminished chord. And there are 2 different ways to look at constructing this scale. One way to look at it is just like this move, where we're kind of combining 2 different diminished chords, the D diminished chord and the C diminished chord. You take the notes from both of these chords and you just sequence them together into a scale, and you get a diminished scale. But the other way that you could look at this would be just by looking at alternating whole step, half step, whole step, half step, right? Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And just like there are only really 3 different diminished chords, there are also only 3 different diminished scales. The symmetry is the same. So there's one on C, one on D flat, and one on D. And then after that, the scales just repeat themselves. Just like our major scale pairs well with our major chords, this diminished scale pairs well with our diminished chord. So like a C diminished chord can work really well with the C diminished scale. These scales are also very commonly used over dominant chords because they cover so many of the altered dominant notes. But when we do this, we're going to change up the scale a little bit and just shift it over by 1 note. We're going to play what's called the half-whole diminished scale, where we're going to alternate half steps and then whole steps. So on G7, we're going to start on G and go up a half step, then a whole step, half step, whole step, etc. Now the half whole and the whole half diminished scale are really just 2 names for the same thing, where they just start in different places. The notes of the G half whole diminished scale are the same notes as the whole half scale starting on A flat. It's just shifted over by 1 note. So if you learn these 3 diminished scales, you can play over any of the diminished chords and any of the dominant chords. These diminished scales are kind of tricky to learn, and the best way to learn any tricky jazz technique is with my RPM practice method, and you can learn that method right here in this 5-minute video that you can watch right now.